if I want to come back on the hill, I have to really to do it different. So I could tell myself, look, it was happening this way, and if I do it the other way, I have a chance to ski jump again.
The fast life, the fast living. They see the ambition, they know I'm past driven.
Hi, and welcome back to the Headwind Podcast. Thank you for being here and slide with me. Today I have a very special guest that needs no introduction, Simon Ammann. I'm really honored to have Simon as my guest. And for those who don't know him, I will quickly do a quick introduction to just recap what he has done in his life. So Simon is probably the best ski jumper of all time and probably worldwide. He has made his Olympic debut in '98 in Nagano at the age of 16 years old. 4 years later, he became double Olympic champion in Salt Lake City. And he did it again at the Olympic Winter Games in Vancouver, Canada in 2010. Now, with 41 years old, if I'm right, I think, he's one of the rare athletes that have 7 Olympic Winter Games participation. He has also started in 474 World Cups. This number is just crazy. He had made 80 podiums and won 23 times. He was 1-time overall World Cup winner, 2 times second, and once third. I hope all these numbers are right because, well, there is so many numbers. I can go wrong anytime. Simon won also 4 World Championships medal and became a 1-time world champion. After his both Olympic medals, he got the Swiss Sports Award. And next to his incredible ski jumping career, he is married to his wife, Jana, and both together they have 3 kids. He is also president of the Special Olympics and was elected to the board of direction of the Toggenburger Bergbahnen. Simi, hi and welcome on the Headwind Podcast. How are you?
Hi, thanks, I'm fine. Yeah, looking forward for Swiss National. I haven't been jumping for a while, so being back on the hills makes me glad, makes me happy. So I have a bit stress with my studies, which I'm doing as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm quite busy, but back into ski jumping makes me feeling well.
Yeah, and that's exactly the point that I want to start with. So I was watching at the SRF interview from the Olympics. And there you were talking about they were asking you about if you would continue ski jumping. I thought it was quite an emotional interview. So you were talking about the fear of quitting ski jumping, maybe also quitting ski jumping on trial. Also about the space for family time and the studies, as you just mentioned. So maybe to start the podcast, the question that everyone wants to know, are you going to jump this winter in the World Cup?
Yeah, hopefully is the quick answer. Hopefully I will jump and fly. I had a major switch this year with making more setting priorities for my studies. Mm-hmm. It's very important for, I think, more my second part, as it might be my second part, my business life. It's gonna be more important to have to have some studies, have at least a bachelor in business administration. I tried to plan all around it, but still, you said I have a fear of quitting, and I think I found quite a nice answer. So I found out that maybe as a ski jumper, the heart of ski jumping is always beating inside.
Yeah, I think that's for every ski jumper somehow, that you see some ski jumper quit a few years ago and still they come back sometimes in the summer to do a few jumps. But so you have not made so many jumps this summer, I think, from what I heard and from what I saw, I think so. How went the few jumps that you did in the summer, and was it, or like, let's go first with this question. How were the jump this summer?
Yeah, it was the jumps now in October were the only jumps I made in this summer. It were 5 training jumps, and
Yeah.
the break before was very, very good.
Yeah.
I call it always a sabbatical, but then coming back on the hill, it was kind of nice weather in Einsiedeln. I know the hill from all my training jumps before, so I
You could probably do like eyes closed.
in sleep while I was sleeping, yes. But it was coming back and being very alive, having this positive feeling going away from the hill afterwards with a smile on my face. And yeah, that's why the ski jumper is still kind of strong inside.
Yeah, and how did you manage this summer, during all this time, because you started only really late to jump, I think only in October. So from the end of the season 2020, so at the end of the season, so in March 22, you were not jumping, and have you been thinking about starting again, or like continuing the season, or like starting the new season, or have you also thought about not like really quitting then?
First of all, I was not sure at all if I should continue or not. Then I always know that I know myself a little bit from the past years where I always need some time to decide, do I have a quite a realistic plan to come back with some kind of idea to get towards the podium. That was always my opinion or my wish to compete in such a manner. And this year, of course, with 41 years, just to jump in the World Cup is maybe the more realistic goal. But it needed quite a while to see a way. Now I was building a house. I was working hard constructing my house, as working with woods, working with installation, and much other training than a ski jumper does actually. It was some upper body heavy part in my training, which is no training task for a ski jumper.
Yeah, I guess so. We don't train so often, like like the arms and stuff. It's really
Yes.
mostly it stays at the legs and that's it.
Quite. My skinny arms now look a bit better. I'm not sad about it. So, of course, I see that I don't have the proper setup as a World Cup ski jumper, but there is still some time to do a proper training now. And as well, I thought it's quite important to have. I call it a sabbatical.
Yeah, yeah.
To have just some proper free time of training and just do other things. Not watching my diet. I burn a lot of calories anyway.
Yeah, I was just gonna say you probably look even skinnier than than at the end of the season. So
yeah, it's maybe one of the reasons why I still have a chance to come back on the hills.
Yeah, sure.
With 5 kilo more, I would also say it's not so realistic to compete in the World Cup anyway. And I'm happy that I'm not so far away. So I thought, yeah, why not go? Why I shouldn't go jump again on the skis? It's still. I'm fascinated by myself, or maybe also astonished, because that's maybe also special about ski jumping. Hard to explain, but you can do it while you are in a certain shape, going on the big hills and fly. And afterwards, if legs get very slow or weight is increasing, it's quickly far away from
then
from a
it
good
gets
shape.
really, really difficult. I want to go with a bit another subject. So maybe going a bit more in the mental side. So as I could read, and while I was doing my research about you in 2002, so when you did your first Olympic medals, there you were seen as the underdog. So no one was expecting you to be there, and a few years later, so in Vancouver, you were really seen as the big favorite. So how did you deal with those roles that you had, and what leads you to be like first the underdog, but still win so easily? I would say almost. It looked quite easy. I watched the videos and I got like, I don't know how to say, chicken skin. It was really emotional. And yeah, Vancouver, just big favorite. Boom, 2 medals, easy peasy.
Yeah, actually, two very different approaches. As a young jumper, I knew the Olympic Games from Nagano. I knew it's a big number. It's always tricky to find yourself in a good position when the world is there. Many other athletes, many stories going on. I knew from '98 that snowboarding was kind of cool coming into the Olympics, and there were, for me it was good. Like others were making the show, despite I was very young, and the medias were interested what I would do there. But I had a chance to try it out, and 4 years later, I knew the kind of environment from the Olympics.
So Nagano was really much helping you to get properly mentally prepare for Salt Lake City then.
Right, correct, yes. And I had just knew that Olympics are kind of a big event, especially the Japanese jumper were doing very well in Japan, and I knew what could go on such games with the athletes. They had certain stress. I did also realize that quite later, but I was just fascinated how they competed, and I never had one really favorite jumper when I was young. So I was always looking at what are doing other best. So Funaki was flying with his skis, his ears between the skis.
We have the pictures. The skis were really like behind the ears,
right.
And
yeah, kind
okay,
of.
How's that working now?
Kind of Domen Preuch ski jumping, and this was fascinating. And coming back to your question, we were in Salt Lake. We were few athletes jumping in Salt Lake before. We had a quite impressive first appearance there in September, Indian summer. We expected
nice.
we expected golden colors in the wood. Going to the US. I mean, it's the country of all possibilities, and I personally didn't know much about the United States, and so we came there with quite a romantic view, and we got totally surprised when in Utah was snow at the first day. I mean, we came there in the evening, there was no snow, and while we were sleeping in the morning, there were 20 centimeters snow. And we had to, the first day we came there, all inside fog, very mystic. So it was quite impressive first appearance on the hill. We had to shovel all the snow out, and were working, not jumping on the hill. We were astonished, so we wanted to fly, and then we had to wait 2 days. So you see that was kind of special first appearance, which was mentally a very strong instrument afterwards coming there.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
And
so how was the role then from you to then to go to Vancouver with this favorite role that you had, with all the expectation probably from everyone, from yourself maybe as well? How did you deal with that?
I had I was kind of feeling very satisfied being a World Cup leader, because I was fighting with the Austrians those years. And the year before, I lost my first World Cup overall shirt just a week or two, or during the competitions, also in January. So I came with a yellow bib or not the yellow bib at the Olympics, but as a World Cup leader. And I knew now it's a time where all experience could come together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I always see competitions as finished when there is the result there standing. When I'm landing in the outrun, I see the screen and I see the result. Of course, then at big games you have to do doping control, media, and also, it's a lot of stuff until you really get the medal. But that's the way I see it. It's not finished, and therefore it's a lot of anxiety before the competitions, which helps me not to make too many mistakes during the warm up, for example, or just to be act very precise as a Swiss guy. And
So like a real Swiss watch.
right, yeah, just to be very precise and be myself, and that helped me in that position in 2010 in Vancouver to compete very strong. I had just one good memories when downhillers were on top on the hill during first round.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
During the competition, it has
Yes.
some other athlete up there.
On the chairlift just before entrance on the tower.
Yeah.
There was Didier Kusch and his colleagues coming, and full of motivation. I was full in focus, and they came very open. Simon, yeah, come on! And I was, ooh.
What's happening there?
Yeah, what's happening? And yeah, but I was quite good focus, so I could make the curve into my world of focus and compete.
That's quite
kind
crazy.
of funny memory, yes.
All right. I would not imagine nowadays like having some other athlete at the hill that should not be there somehow. It sounds quite crazy, but cool.
Yes, it was really cool memory.
All right. So a bit lighter question now. You are known also as Harry Potter. Who gave you this nickname? From where does it come from?
Yeah, maybe younger listeners. I don't know the story anymore, as it was a long time ago. In 2002, we had that fancy coat where we were supposed to wear it for the opening. Mm-hmm. Just a very fancy silver coat, looking like Harry Potter's coat.
Really long, yeah.
And like some kind of he gave us some kind of magic. Actually, we had some critics coming to the Swiss Olympic because it was completely out of Swiss style. But for us, it gave us such a cool dynamic. So coming at the Olympics, opening ceremony, watching inside the stadium and wearing something really special, feeling very good in it. And then I won, and we thought, hey, now what's up? We can't wear this really super cool coat for the winning ceremony. And then it was such great positive and happy dynamics that officials said, hey, let's wear this coat.
Go for it. So you had so the official clothes that you should have wore for the podium was then different than this coat, but you just somehow end up having this coat in the end on the podium.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes, we had such surprising positive dynamic at this first day. Competition small hill in Salt Lake was on the first day, and then I was winning such in an unexpected manner that it came up so huge dimension or dynamic in the games that anything was possible after all, and it made the impression of together with my glasses then kind of Harry Potter image, and the medias took it, made it big. It was not planned.
Yeah, and then you went on TV in the US and those TV shows, late night shows, and yeah, then it got really, really big.
Quite, yeah, it was super cool to have a picture on the New York Times once in my life. Yeah, it was kind of special, yeah, but not very plannable.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's crazy. I want to go in the technique now side, and precisely about the telemark. And I read that in just after Nagano, you were jumping until Nagano so you had the right leg in front. Then after Nagano, you switched. You were landing with the left leg in front, and now I don't know since when exactly, but you are again with the right leg in front. So explain me that, because as a ski jumper, I think it's really difficult to change the leg, and it's somehow against your nature somehow, because it's so natural to have one leg in front. It's for those who go surfing or do some skateboard, you just have a natural leg in front of the other, and the telemark is exactly like that. So switching is really, I picture it myself to be really, really difficult. So what's the reason for that, and how did you manage to
Actually, both switches I had to make. I tore my ligament in the inner side ligament in the knee, on the right knee, after the Olympic Games in 1998, and I was injured, so I made first jumps with a brace. Then later on, it was in the summer, happening in the summer. Then I came back on the hills, and I was feeling quite insecure on my right, unsafe on my right knee, landing, put it in the front. So I was switching on my left foot, and it was working kind of natural. And I didn't really think about it quite many years. I was successful, winning World Cups, gold medals in World Championships, and then in 2015 I had that crash in Bischofshofen.
Okay, yeah.
Where I realized that this was kind of sleeping error.
So you were not really aware of what happened.
Right, that I was having 2 crashes before in Oberstdorf, and also the year before in Lillehammer, when it was snowy conditions and the ski was kind of breaking when after landing, not gliding so smoothly.
Those sticky,
right,
nasty situation where it can be really difficult sometimes.
Yeah, and I think that the crash in Bischofshofen, which looked really ugly, was happening just before. I had just a little bit weight in the front. You see it sometimes happening to other ski jumpers as well, and it might be half a kilo or a few hundred grams, which where point of balance is too much in the front. I couldn't bring it back then in Bischofshofen, and then crashed. Kind of, I think the thing not so nice about it was not the crash itself falling in the front, but then there was an athlete who isn't moving anymore, lying there, down there, and I had a strong wish to go back on the hills. So I had also a kid who was actually there in Bischofshofen, which made me feel very sorry about it.
Yeah, the situation was definitely not the best on this, this weekend.
It was kind of tricky, and I have a picture from hospital showing my right one side looking like a boxer after his hardest fight.
Your face was pretty scratched.
Yes, and you didn't recognize me especially, and you see kind of my face on the other side, and so I knew if I want to come back on the hill, I have to really to do it different. So I could tell myself, look, it was happening this way, and if I do it the other way, I have a chance to ski jump again. I knew it's gonna be tricky on to do it really proper, and all this year since I was struggling doing a really nice telemark, but that's the way I try to go to land on my left knee, and sometimes in training I can do it and it's no problem, but I know there can be sticky conditions, there could be sticky snow, so I have to stick to my right feet, and it doesn't look proper, but I can do ski jumping.
So if I understood right, sometimes it happens can accidentally that you still land on the left.
I had a few times, but maybe a handful, maybe 5 times or so, where I was doing it unexpectedly. I can do it quite a way in the training if I want to, if I concentrate. I could actually do a training and switch every jump, but
but so you have done so many times, so now so now you're actively landing on the right leg, but sometimes when you're not totally focused, it still go back to the left leg. So that means your head is programmed like this somehow, that it's now more natural almost for you to land with the left leg, or is it just
automatically I land on the right side.
Okay,
but I had surprising competitions. Once a competition, I think in Zakopane, where I landed on the left foot. I had the biggest. I was not doing the longest jump, of course, but I had the brightest smile.
Yeah, because probably no one knows that which leg you land, but suddenly you realize that, And that's really something, an information that you only realize, not anyone from the judge or from the people watching on TV, that they would, oh, he landed on the other side, weird.
Yeah, it was just a very funny situation. Yeah, I know just very few ski jumpers who tried that. Anders Vanemel had
Okay.
once injury
Also because of this
on his knee.
injury.
Yes, exactly. And I was talking with him, and he said, "Oh, it's not working so good." But he had quite a good landing, as I saw him one landing on the other feet. And but normally ski jumpers are not switching. It's really a tricky task, and I wouldn't recommend.
Yeah, I can say from my personal experience with my knee injury. So I also tore my right knee, or like my right ligament on the right knee. But I really, in the rehab phase, I was really concentrating on doing the telemark still with the right knee, because I don't have the same balance on the other leg. So I think it would be for me more difficult to have to keep the balance during the jump with the other leg. So I really tried to gain confidence while I was doing the rehab, that when I go back to the hill, I just land with the right, and that's gonna hold, like it's gonna be strong enough to be safe for me.
Yeah, I think for every athlete having an injury with such important part as knee or the leg itself, I think listeners who see ski jumping know that we need such huge amount of trust into our body, and especially something with the ligaments in the knee. It's really a tricky task to come back and find the same safe feeling. And I was quite impressed how you did it, actually.
Thank you.
It was good to decide maybe so early into your rehab to focus on that part, and now there are hardly any problems while you land.
No, now it's absolutely fine, and
Cool.
both legs feels pretty safe. So I'm happy with that. Yeah, I got also really lucky because I had no problem with my knee or anything like that. I heard some other ski jumping like Vanemel got some more problem with their knees, and well, the rehab got longer. But yeah, for that I got really lucky and quite
Good story.
glad for that.
Yeah, cool.
One more theme now, the Special Olympics. So just to tell the listeners what is the Special Olympics. The Special Olympics in Switzerland, it's an organization, if I'm right, that promotes sports to kids, teenager, adults, so like to everyone with disabilities. And so you are the president of this Special Olympics since a few months, I think. And I think it's quite interesting story, because as for me personally, I don't have much or like, let's say like this in our life. We are not confronted with people with disabilities so often. But since my wife is working in school for kids with disabilities, I'm more aware of it. So that's why I want to go on this subject, and what it means for you, and what do you do there?
Yeah, I was until 2010, I didn't have any major role in beneficial meaning. So I was looking a long time for such a role where I could make kind of something for other people. And then I was asked to become an ambassador for Special Olympics Switzerland.
Yeah.
And I, from the beginning, when I was at the events with athletes, the girls and boys always made me feel very good. I came mostly to the events with a feeling of being stressed, and coming from my professional life, also sports life.
Yeah, I mean, anyways, in your life you do plenty of stuff. So you're not
Right.
just a ski jumper. You go study, you build a house. So, and still you go to these events.
I think at any point in a very professional life, it's good to have contact with such people, great people, I would say, because they felt, as I saw them competing, doing their sports, I saw how glad they are to compete. And I had more feedback, more positive feedback when I got home. So I felt, hey, so such a cool thing. They show me why we are doing sport, because we first of all we can do sport. That's a great feeling and not possible for everyone.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And then they show me why are you loving your sports? Why are you loving to move yourself, to get into competition as well as another stage of emotional stage, and that made me. I from the beginning I had a good feeling about it, and later on, the idea to help them to support this inclusive dynamic which our society is discussing right now, it has still a lot of lacks and is lacking to include such people into everyday's life. So as you mentioned, most in a lot of cases they are in an organization which is away from our society, and I think why aren't we including them? So because, as in my example, we had a ski jumper when I was very young, back in the 90s. He had disabilities, but he was jumping off from a hill, and he was in a normal ski club, and he was one of many, and it was working quite fine. And
it was also normal, I think, as a kid, you have just another kid there. It's
right.
You don't see a kid with disabilities. You see just just a kid.
You have to care about him
any other,
as you have to care about others in any case. And so now I think we are in a great way to accept that clubs could include such girls and boys, or even elder persons trying to do sport, because it's very good for their development, and it helps them very much to be motivated to move yourself. For their life is getting much better with sports, and that's why I made the step from ambassador to a president to support that movement.
And I think for you, it probably also show you how sometimes we are so focused in our sports that we get annoyed if we don't perform as we wished, and well, it helps you maybe realize, hey, I can do that. I can have fun. Well, you are pretty good at it, so let's enjoy how it is, and not maybe too much focus on the result or on the performance, and be unhappy with that somehow, I guess.
Yeah, happiness was always, or being an optimist was always a great part of me, but still I saw that I needed support in an emotional manner, and athletes with handicap, they showed me how to, the core of sports, they are really good in our world as professionals, and maybe we think we have perfect abilities to do anything we want, but even their inclusion, that means inclusion, to work together and to let other participate as well in the way they can do, and it will be a good example for us as well.
Yeah. It's great. It's really great. Thank you for these words. So I think we should still have a little bit of time. So want to go quickly on the material side of ski jumping. I know you're an athlete that do a lot of tests with all kind of material, and so as it can be like shoes, skis, and bindings. That's probably the biggest. Well, there's the suit, but that's a more obvious for any ski jumper. But to try so much stuff, how do you keep up with all the? How do you keep like a stability in your jumps and still have a lot of switching in your material? So you can, because I've seen some trainings of yours where you start with a pair of skis, and one jump later or two jump later you do another, you switch the ski and then you switch back. And for me as a ski jumper, it's always difficult to already keep a certain level, like a basic level during one training, so maybe 5-6 jumps, and you are in those less jumps that we have, you switch often materials, also in competition. So how do you keep up? Do you have such a incredible feeling in your body that?
Yeah, Killian, don't mind. I think if you jump longer over when you jump over 30 years, you automatically have a lot of experience, and you will overcome also maybe that anxiety to change too much, because you already have a lot of experience. But regarding my person, I had a very good lesson by Werner Schuster, and he said, "Hey, you Swiss guy." He was coming only 1 year
Yeah.
in to train us, me and Andreas Küttel especially, and he said, "Hey, look, you guys, you Swiss guys, you're trying to get the best out of what you have. So try to make a bigger step to get some impact, and to make not just incremental improvements. Just try to free yourself sometimes with a bigger step." And there was
Was he meaning that because he came from really big nation of ski jumping with a lot of resource and a lot of ski jumpers, and when he was there in Switzerland for this year, well, he saw that there is pretty not that much ski jumper, and the resources are probably also a bit smaller, conservative
approach toward the equipment. And it was right before 2009 maybe, where my best period in ski jumping started. We were still trying very long time to focus on ourselves, which is not a bad thing. I mean, to as you said, you're trying with your equipment to focus very much and to feel the different it can bring to yourself, and maybe you always see incremental, quite correct incremental steps toward your or building up your improvement to a perfect jump, and it can be correct. But after a while, I think you always also have to organize yourself by a new approach. And now I have quite a lot of trust into myself, and if I feel safe, I can go even with that. Even as we tried out this new bolt, as we had the first jumps, I knew that you have to be in very good shape.
Yeah.
And then you see the best result out of tests. And so I tell myself every time I try something, "Are you safe, Simon?" "Okay, yes, you are." And then go for it. I mean, fully 100%. And
yeah, it's also really hard in ski jumping sometimes if you think like, yeah, I'm only gonna look what happens, or let's see what happens. Then it's usually those times where it's absolutely not working, and it could get dangerous. As of if you go with the mind, it will work, even if you don't know if you try a new material or something like that, then usually you bring more energy in the jump, and that's where the jump goes in the right direction, I think.
Right. And for example, at that time, when there was the big story about our binding, we saw some other ideas being placed in the World Cup before, but they were not the best athletes trying it and have a clear result, reading it, understanding it fully. And that was maybe my point, to really bring this high dynamic into this story with the bindings. And of course, at the Olympics in 2010, it had a great impact, even though that Andreas Küttel, my friend, was jumping it all the way during the four hill tournaments. But few guys saw his ball, but nobody really realized how powerful it could be, because I was still jumping on the old system. And then one competition in Klingenthal in front of the Olympics, I took it. We had quite hard intensive discussion if I should really jump it, because it was not so easy to land a proper telemark. But then everything came together. Back to your first questions in Vancouver, and then I was feeling so really on my way into the competition in 2010 in Vancouver, that I made it, and I had this great in the final round, small hill in Vancouver. I did such a convinced jump fully. It was
Yeah.
really one of the best ones in my life with telemark on a hill record distance.
Yeah.
And also myself, I was quite impressive by this huge power, how such a small person as I am, skinny guy, can
Yeah.
be. Yeah, for me it was the world, and I'm so glad that I was so lucky to have this kind of experience.
Yeah, because so what you're saying is, or like what I remember at least, so from back then in 2010, I had the feeling you came at the Olympics and you took the binding, so this special binding, out kind of the box and use it. Of course, you have tested it a lot probably during the summer when no one was watching, but what you're saying is that Andreas Kütel already jumped this binding at the Four Hills tournament, but no one there realized what is going to happen. But when you won with this binding a few months later or a few weeks later, it was suddenly like a huge, well, not a shitstorm, but it was a huge, thing somehow. That is it allowed that you are jumping with this, and I think the big nation were quite. They were fighting kind of against it, that, well, they could kind of maybe win another medal.
Yeah, yes, of course. Maybe few listeners remember that story. Especially the Austrians had built up a huge pressure on it, and I think I had two good voices afterwards, two good feedbacks. First of all, Alexander Pointner was now later acknowledged in his book that there was kind of great move from our side to implement that ball and to really bring it into to bring ski jumping on another level, because nowadays almost everybody's jumping with that kind of adaptation in the system.
I don't think I know anyone without this binding nowadays.
Yeah, and their critics were not so was fruitless. We say it didn't have any flesh on the bone, because they said this was kind of unsafe part of equipment. So
so that was their argument, that it was unsafe.
Exactly, and
Okay.
it's unsafe is not an argument or a part of the rules in the FIS rule books. So there is a rule that the shoe has to be straight on the ski when he's on the ski, but not when he's up in the air. So there was kind of place to play, as there is always teams are playing, and at that part of the rules where there is place to play. And they also play on the other thing, but maybe that's more a suit thing, which also have sanctions. As we see sometimes now.
Sometimes there is some disqualification that
are.
happens, and but
exactly. And the FIS controller then said, and he had quite a simple argument, and he just said, "Did you see Simon flying unsafe, or is there any part you see he's not doing so correctly?"
If it would not be so unsafe, you would not go so far. So
right, that was kind of a funny feedback we had after all, and impressive time also afterwards to looking back. I don't look at big competitions, or I'm not some guy who has his medals on the wall at home and looks at them all the time, but these two things are important. The success was important, and also this curiosity was helping me along my way to be in ski jumping.
Who brought the idea of just putting the binding not straight but a little bit curved? Who had the idea? Do you remember?
We had. I'm not sure. So we saw it in the World Cup. Some other guys were trying some things, some part of the binding which was making actually the same. So we came into the wind tunnel, and then we were trying having good aerodynamics into the air. And while we tried, we had some technicians from Medartis, they are building up metals for if you have an injury with your bone in the fingers, on the head, everywhere in the finger, you can have some titanium plates everywhere. And they obviously they were quite skilled, and together.
Yeah, it's really high precision company who makes like super.
Yeah,
good
40,
product. So to come to switch to ski jumping, it got a big leap for them. But they for
Exactly.
sure have the knowledge to implement.
Yeah, and then we were
Stuff like
just
that.
discussing in the team in the wind tunnel, and it was they were there, and we said, why don't we try out? Actually, we can go on the mechanic bank, just pull on the bolt, and our service guy God, he get motivated in an instant, and then he was going to the bank, screw it up, and then we turn it all around, made it on the correct position. We had to work with a hammer and quite some energy to make it look like this. And then we measured it in aerodynamics, and we thought hey, it's kind of...
So you saw there are really numbers changing.
Right, and we said it's like 10% into the same aerodynamics. And we said, yeah, it's 10%.
Well, that's game changer. I mean, on 100 meters, 10% is quite big indeed.
It's 10%, right?
Yeah.
And we were so impressed, yeah. And then we thought about, with the technician, we thought, how can we build up whole system? How does it have to work? And that, that part helped us a lot to do the finish, to put on the finish on this idea.
Yeah.
And that was one part, and then the other dynamics happened on the hill.
Okay. Cool story. Thank you very much. Well, we are coming slowly at the end of the podcast. So I have just 2 quick last questions. The first one is, do you remember the first time we met?
Now I do.
Now you do.
Now I do that. Thanks to you, Killian. You showed me that really cool picture coming there at the not so really welcomed Swiss nationals on the very 70-meter hill coming after Planica.
Yeah.
In my best one of this year in 2002, we were.
So it was just after the Olympics, 2002.
Right,
yeah.
We came from Planica ski flying, maybe one of the first ski flying I did, maybe the second one after. I was not doing any ski flying before Salt Lake City, because I could go before, but I said I'm not in a good shape. The year before, I don't want to go. The ski flying could be dangerous, and I don't feel like it really. And I got later.
Yeah.
I had this big ski flying feeling inside, and then we came to Les Rousses. Was it Les Rousses?
Yeah, in Les Rousses, in Les Tuffes, in France. So the Swiss Championship were happening after the season in France. So the after the season, we are anyways as athlete quite tired. So the motivation is maybe not as high. Especially it's for Swiss Championship, so it's not maybe as important as a World Cup for a certain athlete. And
coming from the ski flying to this small hill, we were not so fancy about doing any ski jump, and it was in Swiss German we call it kind of sausage and bread competition. Like where I grew up, we have this bratwurst, and which is really famous. Yeah, and after a few years, you showed me that picture, which was an impact for your life.
Yeah, so for the story, so I was watching the Olympics in 2002 at home on TV, and I said to my dad, I want to do these sports. Then he was like, "You're sure you're not going to be scared?" And I said, "Well, no, I think it's going to be fine." So, at the end of the season, we went there to watch the Swiss Championships. I could take a picture with you. That was quite great. And so I have now the picture, and it's so this small. You look also pretty young, I have to say.
Yeah, of course. If I have knives, you see me now, but it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Also, you grew up with Killian.
I got some beard, I think.
More than I do.
Yeah, I think the bigger change are on my side. But it was quite funny moments to dig this picture out of whatever my parents had them somewhere.
Maybe if I can extend that this small episode from your side. I mean, it was really, it was one of the few times maybe among Andreas Küttel's world champion title to be so touched by somebody who's on the hill in Innsbruck. You do, for example. I guess you do also remember that situation very well.
So 2019,
in Innsbruck on World Championships, sitting on the top, and then we had this special. Yeah, we could be on the bottom, and then also watch yourself, and knowing that you came into ski jumping also because you saw I could be maybe I'm not sure your idol or maybe your inspiration for.
You
for
were
the
definitely
way.
my idol. So we are in the room. 1 second.
Simon, dann fahrst du raus. 5 Minuten.
Alles klar, passt. All right, sorry for the interruption.
Our colleague.
Our colleague came in the room
our
and
youngest one.
our youngster.
Right, yeah, that was really cool, a touching moment for me, and
Yeah.
I'm glad. I'm really glad that we had this opportunity to have this. Yeah, that you are so skilled and working as a Swiss watch as well on such a moment, and then you won that medal. I saw a lot of other athletes being there on the top at the end of the competition, having the big pressure, and it can be one ranking outside of the medals, but we saw you made that medal despite Eisenbichler was doing a huge jump, and he had all this also experience to do that, and also Carl, our big guy. And then you did this medal, and you could do all the follow-ups, medal ceremony, and this huge stress as well.
Yeah, it was a really stress, but I mean the best stress of my life, definitely.
Yeah. And it's also cool to watch it from the side as well. Yes, congrats.
Yeah. Thank you. And last question. So it can sound wrong, but let's still ask the question. So, do you remember the first time we were in the room on the training camp together?
No.
So I remember because I think I'm not sure, but I think it was in Predazzo, so in Italy. It was a summer camp, and I think it was the first time I was with you in the room. So I was quite a young athlete back then. It was my first camp as a Swiss ski athlete, and we were in the room, and then we went to bed, and then I don't know, I think you said a joke, and then we were laughing, I think probably for half an hour long. So we didn't sleep for the first hour. We were just saying some stupid jokes here and there, and I remember so vividly because it was, well, we were so much laughing, so it was such a great positive experience. It was quite funny, I think.
I don't remember that, but actually it's quite good, some side story which is very, very good to handle it that way with some fun.
Yeah.
Cool.
It was fun indeed. All right. Well, I hope you had some fun. It's the end of this podcast. So thank you very much for being here. Do you have a last word or?
Thanks to you, Killian. I mean, I don't make so many podcasts, and it's a great idea. I think we can bring some interesting stories to our audience, and go on. I hope you have a few other athletes joining.
I will do my best to get some other guests. Indeed, yeah.
Cool. All the best, and thanks for.
Thank you very much. So, thank you for watching or listening to this podcast. Follow us on Instagram and maybe also tag us on Instagram. So at I think it's Windrider on Instagram. But if you search Simon Ammann, you will 1981. So you will find us on Instagram and maybe just tag us there to tell us what you got from this podcast, and share with a friend. Do your thing and have fun. Thank you, Simon, for being here.
Thank you, Killian. See ya.
Ciao.